Hello, friends, and welcome back to BookTube with Jenny Luez. If you've been watching some of my videos but have yet to subscribe, please go ahead and hit the subscription button. Subscribe to this channel, ring the notification bell so that you don't miss spending time with me, going over the things we love, and that's all things about books. Also, please do like this video. On today's installment, I'm going to give you a little hint with a song. We gotta get out of this place. If it's the last thing we ever do, we gotta get out of this place. There's a better life for me and you. You know it's true. Now, why does that song have any bearing whatsoever on a book about Christmas? Well, it's because in Hannah's Hope by Karen Kingsbury, the fourth and final installment of the Red Gloves series, is because within the pages of this book, there is a page straight out of war, in which there are people debating about which team is the best team to go handle this particular mission, where everyone knows that there's a high chance that the soldiers that go in won't be coming out again. And how do you pick? And the people that chose to raise their hands are two of the people in places of command and prestige, elite soldiers who don't have a family of their own. Or do they? So in Hannah's Hope, we meet, of course, the main character, Hannah. She is a 15-year-old girl who has absentee parents. She has a life of prestige and money, wealth at her fingertips, a driver, she's going to the best schools. And yet, outside of academia, outside of her extracurricular activities in which she chooses to excel, life on the outside looking in looks like she has it all. And yet, what do you have if you don't have a family around you to love you, to care for you? What do you have if all you have is old money and formalities? A grandmother that pretty much lets you do whatever you want, and parents that are in another country as diplomats and are disinterested in spending time with you because they're busy throwing parties and doing outreach and forming relationships with people in other countries on behalf of the United States. But how does that benefit you as a child at home at all? Teenager finding their way. Unfortunately, there's just a huge disconnect, and there's loneliness and a hope for so much more. Well, through a certain chain of events, Hannah finds out that the father that raised her isn't actually her father at all. Through a series of events, Hannah's mother decides that although she was going to wait until Hannah turned 18 to tell her the truth of her life story, she decided that 15 was fine. 15 was fine because they're not going to be with her at Christmas, and this will give her something to do over the holidays, and maybe she can discover more about herself and find a way to have that family. Of course, her mom doesn't think anything of it. Her mom just thinks, oh, she'll learn a little bit about her father, but she doesn't know what Hannah's going to do with this information, learning that the father in Switzerland, the diplomat father, the one who's given her, along with the mother, this life of wealth, is not her father at all. In fact, her biological father, one that actually she has memories of up until the age of 4, of him playing with her on the floor and singing to her, strumming along with his guitar. A dad really involved, who really cared about her, who really loved her, somebody who would spend that quality time with her that all children need. Well, it turns out he was like a beach bum, surfer dude, lifeguard. What kind of future was that with him? And hence the reason the mother, who had come from wealth, didn't end up staying with him and the freedoms he had to offer, because she just couldn't envision living her life in a way that was less than or poor, didn't have the quality of life that could have afforded the more. So Hannah, learning that She has a father that she vaguely remembers out there somewhere, and she did not forget about him, as it turns out. She did remember him. It's just that the people around her removed her from him. The people around her didn't talk to her about him. Instead, they foisted and this other father onto her, saying, "This is your dad. This is your daddy now." And so she never forgot, but she put away the memories of the other father, because from 4 to 6, when you're lamenting and crying for the other daddy, but being told this new man is your daddy now, well, what's a little child to do but to eventually accept that fact and to get on with life, because the daddy she remembered, for whatever reason, wasn't coming back. Of course, it was through no fault of his own. He was doing what he thought he needed to do in order to keep his little family unit together, from beach bum and surfer dude and lifeguard to joining the military, becoming a part of the army, becoming a helicopter pilot to be exact. And he thought, with the prestige of a title, of becoming something within the military, someone who's saving lives and going on important missions, well, that could elevate him to the status where this woman he wanted to be with, who he had fathered a child with, where she wouldn't leave and where she would marry him, and they could be the family that he desired for them to be, because he's now meeting the goals she wants to have in her life that she had not been quite able to give up. But while he's away going through his training, she leaves and she takes Hannah away from him. And he's not able to find them when he gets back. All he has is memories kept in a paper sack. And it's this paper sack and these memories that he takes with him as he continues throughout his military career and his service and goes on his missions. He's never forgotten Hannah either. And yet, when it comes to all these missions that have the most risk of death, he's the one that will be the first to volunteer, because although he has memories of Hannah, although he tried to find her before, it's just all dead ends. And so obviously it just seems to him like it's never going to happen. And so he has these memories to take with him, but it's not tangible, it's not real. He doesn't have that relationship. He missed out on all those years. And so he's the first to volunteer because he wants to save the other servicemen from putting their lives in danger, because he doesn't want them to lose their families. He knows what that feels like. Unfortunately, Hannah is learning the truth about her dad, but as she's trying to search for him, it turns out she's looking under the wrong name. He was known by a nickname when she knew him, so she didn't really know his real last name, and so she's turning up her own dead end. As Hannah is searching for her biological father, she puts out a message on the country music station on television where she's hoping her dad in the military will find it, that she hasn't forgotten about him. She wants to spend time with him. She wants to see him at Christmas. The message does reach him in the middle of a desert, far, far away. He can't believe it. He's like, could this really be my Hannah reaching out to me? Or is it just some other Hannah? Because goodness knows, Hannah, well, that's a fairly common name. And he does his own trying to call different people in the States, trying to find out, is this his Hannah, by calling the radio station. But of course, there's mishaps and miscommunication, and there's just no meeting. Things just keep going wrong, slipping through the cracks, being delayed. They get delayed so much that by the time Hannah's able to find her biological father, truly track him down with the help of a mother that's returned from overseas, only because Hannah has made national news by putting out a story that caught fire, that is trending. That's the only reason her mother ended up coming back, hoping to put out the fire while also maintaining the truth. But lo and behold, her mother does end up finding her heart, wanting to help her daughter, not wanting to be so absent. And so she realizes Hannah deserves to have the father in her life that can be dedicated to her, that can spend that time with her regardless of circumstance. This mother, seeing that Hannah's story has made national headlines, realizes that she needs to do her part to help reunite Hannah with her biological father. And this is Hannah's miracle, Hannah's Christmas miracle. You see, Hannah's driver is the one that really was raising her when all others were kind of apart, in that he cared about her. He's a Christian. He prayed for her. He asked her repeatedly, "What can I pray for you this year?" And Hannah's wish was that her parents would be home for Christmas. Now, of course, the driver and Hannah at the time thought that this meant her diplomatic parents would come back from Switzerland and come home for Christmas, even though they told her they weren't going to, even though they told her that they had too much to do, too many parties to hold and places to be. And this driver, he gives her red gloves, and the red gloves, inside of the cuff, inside here, is sewn in a word that says believe. And he tells her, "I can pray for you, Hannah, but you also have to believe." Well, as more is found out and she realizes, I have a different father, and now her mother is home, so part of her Christmas miracle has happened. Her mother is there now. The other part of the miracle needs to happen too, where the biological father will appear. And this is why I've given this Karen Kingsbury the final Red Gloves series book called Hannah's Hope. This is why I've only chosen to give this book a 4-star. Didn't quite reach the mark of the other 3, with Gideon's gift and Maggie's miracle and Sarah's song. It's because at this point we've all come to know that, okay, in the Red Glove series, these are Christmas feel good, not quite Hallmark holiday cheesiness. No, there's war mixed in between. And yet there's that predictability that for this book is just too much. You know this author is not going to kill off her darlings. You know that there's no possible way she's not going to let the biological father come back into Hannah's life. So that's why I give it a 4-star. Because although it talks about war, the horrors of war, it's too light. It's too light. Because there's a mission that this biological father goes on before he learns that it was his Hannah trying to send him the message. It was his Hannah reaching out, wanting to have her father in her life, wanting to be reconnected with him, telling him that she's never forgotten him, just as he's never forgotten her. And she's ready. She's more than ready. She wishes, like he, that they had never been apart. But he's already out on this mission in the desert, in the middle of nowhere, going into enemy territory. There's no way to get word to him, nor should anyone in the middle of the mission anyway. And so he goes into battle. And unfortunately, the helicopter that they're flying, they ended up getting ambushed. And there's a rocket that was shot that brought them down. It falls captive to the enemy. And every single person that was a part of that mission, outside of Hannah's father, was killed. Hannah's father himself was taken as a prisoner of war. He didn't know at the time that everyone else had already been murdered. He was kept alive because they knew he was the leader, the one in charge, the one flying the helicopter. And so his captors wanted to interrogate him. Through the process of interrogation, which we are not shown much of, as that is happening to him, there's also a rescue operation set in motion. And he ends up being rescued. But again, even though all of his crew had died, what is too neat and tidy about the whole thing is because he would have had survivor's guilt. One of his best friends, he watched him die beside him. He reunites with the commander in charge back on the base after he's been rescued, told he did a good job, he did what was right, he followed orders, which was to get himself back alive, and he did that. He's back alive, even while the rest of his team is now dead. The commander, though, decides to send him home for Christmas to recuperate, to go on leave, to have a period of absence, well deserved rest. And he surprises him with a ticket that takes him to Maryland, and he's like, why am I going there? What's going on? And he ends up finding out that he gets to go home to see his daughter for Christmas. And he lands and gets to be reunited on Hannah's doorstep. And it is a beautiful reunion, and we don't see much beyond that. And so to me, the story is just incomplete. It's tackling too broad of a subject when it involves war. It's tackling too broad of a subject to close so quickly and to not dive into more deeply the father and how he's just been affected by the whole of life, really. Of course, the book does center mainly on Hannah, and therefore that's why the book is called Hannah's Hope. It's about the 15-year-old more so than the father. I don't know how Karen Kingsbury could have done this storyline any better outside of there being more trauma, more things to work through. And yet, like I said, then this book wouldn't really be a Karen Kingsbury book, wouldn't really fit within the Red Glove series, because this was all about a Christmas miracle. And the Christmas miracle still did come true because God said yes to Hannah's prayer. And God did say yes to the longing in Hannah's biological father's heart, too, of being able to be with his daughter someday. And who knows? The story ends up ending on an open-ended note, but who knows? Maybe this was the thing that caused him to relinquish his place in the military and at his next open opportunity to retire so that he could be that close-knit father with Hannah once more and devote his life and time to her where other people were simply not capable of doing that for reasons all of their own. So unfortunately, even though this book was good and I still did like it and it was still a great fast read, I just found some flaws that caused me to rate this book a 4-star instead of 5. I hope through my reviews of the Red Gloves series, you are able to find your own Christmas read that brings you happiness and joy and allows you to believe in Christmas miracles. Believe in it for yourself and know that through prayer and belief, those two things combined can sometimes be enough to make that Christmas miracle come true. Believing in faith alongside of you. Until next time, friends.